So we're going to learn each of the parts of the form in 5 different stages. I teach 5 stages of training for each part of the form. And this is so that the practitioner, after training in these various ways, builds up more of an understanding of each of the parts, the movements within that part of the form, as well as how to actually use it in application after as well. So these 5 different stages help bridge the gap between it just being a form, a sequence of you going through something, to how to actually use it later on and preparing your body for how to use it later on in your self-defense drills, in your application onwards. So stage 1 is simply learning the sequence. Like when we first learn anything, we first have to learn the sequence, so then we don't have to think about that anymore. So once you don't have to think about the sequence anymore, you can focus on these other aspects. But stage 1 is making sure that you know the sequence and can perform it yourself without anyone else's help or guidance. Once you've done that, we move on to stage 2. Stage 2 is doing the form as a dynamic meditation. And the reason this is stage 2 is because this is our opportunity to learn to free our body of any unnecessary tension and any unnecessary muscular force that we might be using in our movement. So when you're training in this meditative state, when training the form, you want to focus on freeing your body of tension, relaxing your weight to the ground while maintaining your shape. Once you've relaxed off your body, you've got rid of the unnecessary tension that you've been holding, then you'll be ready to move on to the next stage, the 3rd stage. Now this 3rd stage, force flow stage, or learning how to use your joints instead of the muscular force that you've just freed yourself from in prior with the 2nd stage. You can focus now on using your joints to generate force and stabilize you. So in this stage you'll be giving yourself resistance while doing the motions to test yourself, see if you're holding any unnecessary tension, and try and relax your body as you're doing it. So you create a counter resistance while you're training the movements. And this helps you build up a good connection with your joints and gives you more of an idea on if you're shutting your muscles off or if you're holding any unnecessary tension. And we'll also look into the directions that you'll be applying the force that you're generating through your joints towards. Once we have that down and you feel confident and comfortable and you've developed a good understanding at this point, because you've relaxed your body off through the meditation, you've seen how your joints work and how you can generate power through your joints, we come to the explosive power. So now we need to learn how to actually inject power into our strikes, which is really just throwing energy, whether that be a punch or it be any kind of strike. Instead of relying on muscular force, we start to learn how to inject energy, throwing energy into our strikes. So we start working more towards the reality of how we're actually going to be using it. Because when we're striking, if we're in a self-defense situation, you're going to be using explosive power when you're striking. So at this point, you're getting used to, when you're doing a punch, when you're doing a strike, you're actually getting used to generating power, throwing power into that strike. So it's not muscular force, but it's really throwing. It's just like throwing. But combining it with your breathing to be able to generate force quickly and explosively. And finally, once you have more of an idea on how to use that explosive power, use your body to its full potential as a unit, we get to our final stage, the 5th stage. The 5th stage is just flow. So like in any combat or any situation, you want to stay moving. You never stop at any point. Even in the 4th stage, when we're practicing explosive power, we're still actually isolating each of our movements. So for example, if we were doing tan sao in the 4th stage, we'd be isolating that tan sao still. We'd be pausing after we've done it, basically. So this 5th stage, flow, we're learning to stay moving the whole time through all of the forms. So there's no points that we stop moving. And in that way, if you're using your Wing Chun, you're constantly moving all the time, as well as with your footwork. And that becomes, again, more realistic and more towards actual application in how you'd use it, because you'd be explosive, but you'd stay moving. At no point would you be striking and holding positions. But at the beginning, because you're isolating each motion, or if we're training a particular aspect, like the explosive power, we're isolating each movement to practice it in that movement. And then when we get to that flow stage, we're really starting to integrate all our movement together, all our movement, all our forms, our transitions between our shapes, and bring it all together, so that after, when you're moving around in a self-defense drills, or in your chi sao, or in sparring, or whatever drills you're doing, and working towards real life application, you understand how to be continuous with your movement. It's called fan sao in Wing Chun, which is continuous movement, so that you're always continuing with your movement. And it becomes, instead of if you imagine like a square and we're being kind of a bit robotic, the edges start to smooth out and your motions become a lot more fluid and dynamic. So there are 5 stages, and that's the 5 stages that you'll be learning the form in, and that I teach it in, to give you more of an idea as a practitioner how you can actually start to working towards using your form work in real life application, as well as getting the other benefits from it, the meditation and everything else. So with these stages, follow each stage from stage 1 to stage 5, and then what happens is you want to go back round again. You want to go back to stage 2, because you won't need to relearn the sequence. But you want to go back to stage 2, the meditation, the dynamic meditation of the form. And it'll feel different, because you would have built up more of an understanding, more of a feeling, and have a more of an idea of what the form can give you. And it'll feel different doing it again in stage 2. Likewise, then you might want to go to stage 3, 4 and 5 again. Or each individual is different. At different times you might want to work on different aspects. You might think, I need to work more on explosive power, so you'll train that more. I want to work more on my flow, so I can tell I'm stopping in my movement, or I'm not being continuous, so you'll want to work on that particular aspect. So once you've gone through each stage and you have trained and understand each of them stages, then it's really up to you which stage you train. Whatever stage you feel like you need to work on more, you can train combined stages. And also you can use each of these ways of training stages on any parts of the form, and that's how we'll be training them on the second, third part of the first form. And all our forms, we in OWA Academy, we train our forms in this manner, where we train them with all these different energies or emphasis on certain aspects in training them, so we can keep building and it crosses over into our application drills and more. So take your time with it, make sure you're comfortable and you understand each of these stages and you've trained them before moving on. And I hope you enjoy training your forms.